I'm Ashley.
And I'm Sadie. And we are an Ashley short again. I feel like at this point I'm literally just trading Ashleys for episodes.
Yeah. You know what though? It's been a hot minute because we've just all been busy, and it was funny because my mom, she looks forward to listening to. Hi, mom. She looks forward to listening to our episodes, and the first week that we missed one, she was like, there was no podcast on Thursday. I'm like, I know, mom, dude. Like, we are all like running in different directions.
Yeah.
So, but like at least on our end, I think the rest of the summer, we're pretty low key now. So we kind of
Hopefully,
had
yeah.
a busy beginning.
Well, and it's nice too because like we might not all three be able to be in for episodes right now during this time, but we're trying to at least have at least
Something.
two of us,
Yeah.
something, and hopefully at some point we will get a few episodes recorded, so we at least have like some backups like we did.
Yeah, because we were really doing well at that for a bit.
Mm-hmm. And then life happens.
Excuse my voice. So, well, it could have been worse. My husband had this cough and like just kind of raspiness for, it's been almost a month, like 3 to 4 weeks. Mine just started like last weekend. And this is great. Like, I sound great, but I'm still a little raspy.
Yeah.
But the cough is so much better. Like, it was to the point, you know, when you're, like, coughing to the point you're gagging?
Yes.
It was horrible.
Well, it's a good way to get abs, though. Just get sick, and then you can just cough yourself into abs.
But, like, painful.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was kind of a little rough. But, so what's been up with you?
So we kind of talked a little bit my last episode with Nelson. I mean, we're like in the thick of summer with kids and stuff. Like, we're just always running somewhere. And our June is always nuts. Like, it's just always nuts. Because we went to my dad's beginning of down in Arkansas, which I talked about that a little bit. We like scuba diving and stuff like that.
Oh, wow.
Are
there like alligators?
There's alligator gar. It's like, which is like a giant fish, and an alligator had a baby, and it's awful.
I am like weirdly interested in alligators. Like, every time we've been to Florida,
No.
I always have this desire to see one like in real life.
No. First of all, have you seen how big alligators and crocodiles get? Okay, have you seen how big a saltwater crocodile gets?
Well, at the zoo. But like, for real, like my friend,
imagine just swimming and all of a sudden that thing comes up and like, what up?
My competing friend, she lives in St. Pete, and she has had like videos on social media. We got children.
Okay, well, let's keep our hands to ourselves, because now the whole world knows that we need to keep our hands to ourselves.
We got mom life.
Okay.
Yeah, no editing here, folks.
So sorry.
But yeah, she's had videos like actually showing an alligator in the background. And I think it's so fascinating. I'm also fascinated by sharks, although I don't ever want to encounter one. But anyway.
Yeah, I like sharks.
So Arkansas.
Yeah, that's funny. Nelson and I dove into like a whole shark side trail adventure this last one. Yeah. Alligators though, no. Also, have you seen how alligators look like from the surface compared to like they've done like the underwater?
Oh.
So like how like their little head is underneath, but like underneath they've got like their legs like almost like up and down, and they just like sprout like little zombies, and their head just floats on the water. I'm like, why do you look like that?
They're like icebergs.
Yeah.
You see such a small percentage of their body on top, and then underneath they're just monstrous.
Yeah, and then they come onto the water and they snatch you and your dog, and then you die.
Yeah. So years ago, like when the kids were little, gosh, probably like 2012, 2013 range, we were in Florida at Disney, and the week after was when that toddler was like eaten by an alligator on the resort site in one of the ponds. And it said no getting in the water, you know. And I remember that hit home a little bit, because I was like, oh my gosh, we were literally just there. We were, scary. Okay, so you went to Arkansas.
Yeah, which I'm going to be curious. I don't know if they have, I'm sure like maybe in some parts, they got like a lot of like snakes and spiders and just, yeah.
I just love the South though. I think,
when he's like in the mountains.
Yeah, I just love that. I think I was born to be living in the South. Like anytime we travel down south, I just feel like I belong. I also belong in England too. Like
I would love to go to Europe sometime. That's so high on my bucket list.
I'm also meant to be British. And so
Which my stepfather-in-law actually is in Italy right now, and I'm
wow.
super jealous.
So the girls and I, we went to Italy, oh my gosh, like back in 2016-ish, because my brother was in the Navy, and so he was stationed over there
nice.
in Croatia.
Nice.
And so his wife she had just had their second child. And so we went to visit, and it was incredible. And I think what made it so interesting is because we weren't doing, like we did the whole Rome, the Colosseum,
Yeah.
like the fountain, all that. But
Yeah.
for the majority of our trip, we were like in this little village, and so we really got to
Actually,
experience.
yeah.
And the crazy thing is, like, they don't have any sense of time. Like time to them, it doesn't matter. So like the village, like the shops and stuff, they'd open sometime in the morning. They would close sometime after lunch for
Yeah.
like rest period.
Yes, they have like an actual like
Yeah.
though, and like everything shuts down.
Everything shuts down, and then if you wanted to go back in the evening, they would open around ish between 4 and 5. So some shops you would go into, they're not open yet. But the other thing is, like, they have their meal so late. So like they wouldn't even be doing suppers, like what we consider supper meals, until like 10 o'clock at night.
Oh.
Like, so they're just like, sense of time is just so laid back.
But also like look how like just chill, and it's a whole different vibe. Like the American culture of like work, like if you're not hustling, working 5 different jobs, sun up to sundown, doing all the
don't
things
talk
like
to people.
yeah, then you're like you're falling behind. Or like you look at these other cultures and it's like
They really
Why did-
embrace humanity.
I'm like, why did we choose this? We could be sitting on a mountainside or a beach somewhere, and instead I'm like
Yeah.
filing taxes.
You know, the other thing though about it is so every village in that area had to take turns shutting their water off to conserve water.
Oh.
And we just happened, the village, oh gosh, I can't remember what village it started with an M. That's not helpful. But it happened to be that turn. So every night around, I don't know, 8 o'clock, the water would shut off. So after supper, it was always kind of a guessing game of, okay, are we going to have water to do the dishes? Hurry up and go to the bathroom for the last time if you have to go number 2, because pretty soon the water's going to shut off.
It's like that'd be my biggest thing, like, 'cause I pee all the
Yeah,
time.
and you can still go, but like you're not going to be able to flush. And so then the next morning, same thing, it would turn on when they chose to turn it on. So some of those things, going out to eat too, like in the U.S., we're so used to like
Everything's very scheduled.
your
and planned.
waitress comes within like 5 minutes. They give you, they bring you your drinks, they bring you your appetizers. You're in and out.
Yeah.
I think in like an hour if you want to be.
Yeah.
There, it was so prolonged because it's an experience. It's like
Yeah.
a personal experience. It's not just getting a meal. It is fellowship, and so sometimes even
Actual genuine
myself,
culture.
yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes it was like, I just want my food. I just want my
so
food.
hungry.
I love talking to my family, but and then fun story. There was one of the places we went to. And granted, this was a long time ago, but it was all in like Italian, so I couldn't read it.
yeah.
So, and the waitress spoke Italian. Now, my sister-in-law, she was getting pretty good at interpreting some. So I was trying to pick out one of the cocktails, and so I was like kind of swiping my finger up and down, like kind of asking the waitress like, help me. And so she pointed to one, and I gave her a thumbs up, like, see, like that means yes. And
Yeah.
so she brought it. It was fantastic. I don't know what was in it to this day. So
idea.
then I ordered another one. And let's just say by the end of the dinner, my daughter, who was like in 7th grade at the time, she ended up giving me a piggyback ride out of that place because I was smoked. I don't know. It didn't even taste like alcohol, and I should have taken a picture of the ingredients, but I don't know. So anyway, when I think of Italy, that's always fun to think back to. Like, just great. I don't know. We don't really do much, not at all, besides that, and a quick
Yeah.
Mexico trip. But
Yeah.
I think international travel would be so interesting but also scary right now. So
There's it. I really think it depends on where you go. Like I said, like so my, which will get to this a little bit. So my in laws. So my husband's mom, and then her husband, which is my husband's stepdad.
Okay.
So my mother in law and my stepfather in law, they do quite well. My stepfather-in-law does quite a bit of traveling. Like they're really big in I was like the Muay Thai community and stuff, and they're actually like one of the biggest reasons that it's so prevalent in the States. Them and their like little core original group really help like build it in the States. And so Pete, which is my stepfather-in-law, I mean he travels all over the country, all over the world, like doing different fighting stuff. Like he goes to Thailand every single year because he'll ref over there, and then he does like fight camps and he brings fighters. And then he stays over there. I want to say he was just in Croatia, maybe. No, possibly at some point. I could be wrong. If they're listening, they're probably like, Sadie, you're dumb, which is fine. I know he went to Turkey. I mean, they go to Mexico quite a bit for stuff. Gone to Hawaii. Just all over the place and like just doing stuff with Muay Thai, which is really cool. So he gets to travel a lot, which is why he's in Italy right now. I was giving my mother-in-law some crap, and I was like, he needs like a social media person to go with him. Like I should
to like document.
I should probably just I should
just
go. I should just go with them.
You know, like anymore, if someone had like a completely remote job, how cool would it be?
Just go work anywhere.
Just work, yeah. And I don't know the details of this kid, not kid, because we're like over 40, but a fellow, not even a classmate. He was in high school at the same time I was, so I don't know what you call that. But I saw on his social media, he had this map of like the last 6 months of all the different places he's gone to. And it was like playing on this reel, and it had like his point and then the line going over to like the next place and then the next place. And when it was done, it was like, oh my gosh, he has traveled so much.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming he's got like some type of a remote job, but
he does,
you know, if you didn't have obviously a spouse and kids make that a little tricky, but like
if you're like the ability to do that, that'd be really
like,
sweet.
I actually that same friend in St. Pete, her and her significant other, they both work remotely, and so it's kind of fun to live vicariously through her and watch like all the different places they travel.
Yes.
And it's like they're still working and
just going out and enjoying life. And
have you seen those cruise lines? I saw it on the news not too long ago where some people who are retiring, instead of like they sell their house, they sell everything, and they just buy blocks of cruise times, and so they essentially just live on a cruise ship. Yeah. So they sell their house, they sell, and then they buy, like extended stay cruise. And so essentially they live on a cruise ship and
they just tool around.
Yeah. And they had statistics and, different on the news story, but it ended up being cheaper for those people to do it that way.
What?
Than having like their mortgage and
everything else.
Yeah, and like groceries, all the expenses.
Like, you think about it. I mean, a lot of times you can get like the all-inclusive stuff,
and you wouldn't have any bills.
Yeah.
No insurance. I mean, you'd still want your like Medicare,
right?
Your health insurance, or whatever that looks like for you. But I'm like, I don't know. That might be all right.
I would not be mad.
I would not be mad. So. Competing or like competitions have been big, kind of like changing gears here. It's been kind of fun to follow because now we have some national shows that have been
the national shows have been kind of hit. Well,
that's been fun. Children.
My children are in the background.
So they just got done with NPC Junior Nats, and gosh, that used to be held in Chicago. Like I remember I competed for that when I was in the figure division, when it was still in Chicago, and then I think 3 or 4 years ago they moved it to Chattanooga, Tennessee. So which is such a weird location, I think. But anyway,
the one in Chattanooga.
Yeah.
When I think they moved USA's back to Vegas.
Vegas,
It was in
yeah.
California last year.
Which is such a bad decision.
Yeah, and it was like right by Disneyland because they said
Yeah.
it would be cheaper, and I was like, in what world? In what world? So that's back in Vegas, so which I'm excited for. I'm hoping that stays there.
Oh, for next year.
Because that's kind of what we're shooting for next year. Less than a year, so a lot can change
Yeah.
from then.
Yeah.
But
Junior USA's, I always liked that one. That was held in May, and it used to be out east in Charleston. And I liked that one because it was smaller. But the bad thing about it is, in order to get a pro card, not only do you have to win your class, but then you had to like be the top 3, if I remember, like overall. But it historically was a little bit smaller natural show. But yeah, they're just those are really popping up. I know Ash has been busy at shows every week, and yeah, so all the national shows going on. So yeah, well, that's exciting for you to kind of. I always thought it was helpful, like once you actually had kind of a game plan of, because then it's like then you could really dial in and
kind of know where you're going.
Yeah. Like
which, and that obviously, like we said, like that could definitely change, or like, you know, we go and like, hey, I'm still not where, you know, we want to be at to be competitive, or we could just go and see what happens. But it'll be interesting too, because so I'll probably shoot for the one Omaha show for the NPC.
would that be in June?
That one will be in June, and then we'll have our week-long fight tournament, which is what we just finished this last week. And then I would have my oldest birthday, and then shoot off to USA's. So
That'd be busy.
that could be a little spicy. So that could change some things.
But on on a different perspective, sometimes I think it's easier when you're in the grind of the last stages of prep when you are so busy, because then you're not sitting around thinking about like
Yes, as long as
all
like
the things.
as long as like stress is good and you have everything else like dialed in, because that's like the biggest thing is like stress can absolutely just tank
you. Yeah.
and just absolutely destroy you. Especially like towards the end, you can look good one day, stretch yourself out, and the next day you look like a bag of dicks. So as long as that's okay, which I don't think it should be.
Yeah.
We've got spent a lot of time working on being able to like mitigate stress and like have good I won't say like coping, but like how to manage it and realize when I need to step back a little bit or take my foot off the gas. So that's been
Right.
that's been nice, and that's been helping, and I feel like it's really been showing this improvement season, which has been good. So
Well, I don't know. Maybe we should talk about stress a little bit, because I don't think people truly understand its role. And, you could be doing all the things right, your nutrition and going to the gym. But if you don't have your stress and your cortisol levels in check, your body is constantly living in kind of this like fight or flight.
Yes.
And your body is going to be so prioritized to, okay, how do we get through this stressor? How do we like get her to chill out? We can't build muscle. We can't lose body fat, because we have to, the body's priority becomes how to manage the stress. So all the other things, even if you're doing it right, it's not that you're doing it for nothing. It's just you're not going to get.
You're not maximizing. Plus you get like the inflammation, and then it starts to mess with like your gut health and like all of that, and like your gut's pretty much your second, if almost like your main brain, to be honest.
Right.
And so if that's messed up and that's inflamed, like you're gonna have that little like gut, you're gonna have that little pooch, you're gonna have some of those
Water
signs
retention.
and symptoms of water retention. Your sleep's gonna be messed up. If your sleep's messed up, you're not gonna be able to build your muscle. You're not gonna be able to cut the fat, like all those things.
And I think people forget. So like stress, when we think of stress, I think it's pretty safe to say that people think of stress as being like bad things.
Yeah, like houses on fire, running around, chicken head cut
your
off.
body doesn't know like when it's actually good stress. So for example, let's say you just bought a new house and it's really exciting and it's like good stress, or exercise is good stress on your body, but your body still recognizes it as stress and will treat it as so.
Yes.
And so, there is such a thing as over exercising. Like I see these people all the time, you and I both, we see this, where the whole no days off gang. And it's like, yeah, I think those people think that they're being like these super warriors, but they also are missing out on the actual biological benefit or physiological benefits of recovery.
Yeah.
Because your body does need time to recover. It doesn't mean you're lazy. It doesn't mean that you're like, not putting in the work, but your body has to have time to regenerate. And
Especially, I think especially as a female, like, you need to learn your body, and because females are very cyclical. Like, our body runs on a cycle and stuff, and it's like you said, if you're overstressing it and you're continuing to work out and you're not pulling the brakes off when you should be underneath the surface, whether you realize it or not, like, your body generally needs that rest. Like,
it needs rest.
I'm gonna be honest, like, there's a lot of days, like, I'll take a rest day and I wake up and look better that next day because I didn't
100%.
overstress myself out. And it's like, yes, there are times, there are places where it's like, not to have like an excuse, like, oh, I'm using this excuse to not go.
And I think you have to keep yourself
But
in check of that too.
yes, but when it becomes where you're more stressed about finding the time to get that gym session in than it is if I'm like, I literally just have too much. I literally, like, I can't, type of thing. Then I think it's beneficial to take that rest day to pull back, or like when you're sick,
I was just
or
gonna say that, yeah,
stuff like that. Especially
some people
it's
will
way more
fight
beneficial.
through that. Yeah,
Yes.
they'll be like, "Oh, I'm not gonna miss the gym because I'm sick." Now, there is something to be said to continue to move when you're sick.
Yes.
But if you think you're gonna go into the gym and have it's almost like you're having diminishing returns at that point because your body is prioritizing to recover. It's not going to prioritize building muscle. So not that you're doing it for nothing, but you're almost prolonging the healing process because your body now has to take a step back and try to recover your muscles when it could have used that time to help you get over your illness.
Yeah. Or if you're sacrificing
Sleep. Yeah.
Because that's one of the big things my coach is big proponent of. Is like, if you can get, so say like you're on the brink of like 7 to 8 hours of sleep. Well, if you're gonna only get 6 hours of sleep, so you have that extra hour to go to the gym, she's like, don't. She's like, use that extra hour to sleep, so you have 7 to 8 rather than 6.
Yeah.
And just don't go to the gym that day.
There is data, plenty of data now to support that. That it really starts with your sleep. Like, you can have the exercise, you can have the right food, the gut health, but like sleep really plays a big part. And circling back to the whole kind of recovery, there is also data, and we had gone to this conference I'll get into a little bit, but I got to meet Sal DeStefano from Mind Pump, and I actually got to meet the whole crew of Mind Pump. I was like super fangirling, but he spoke at this conference. It was a peptide conference, and I had heard him say this before on podcasts, but there is regarding like recovery, there's enough research now to say that someone who only works out, like strength trains once a week, will still make strength gains.
Yeah.
And that goes up a little bit at twice a week, and then, kind of stabilizes at 3 times a week, but much more than 3 times a week. There is actually evidence to show that to some degree, it's not that much more beneficial because you're not allowing adequate recovery. Now, that looks different. As bodybuilders, we know that, okay, if we do a pull day or an upper body day and we give our body plenty of time to recover before we do those same exercises, that's one thing. And I think what the research is saying is more like full body.
I was like, I think
but it doesn't take much, and that's what people don't realize. Like, you don't have to go every day, and you shouldn't go every day.
Right. And I think, and again, there's obviously caveats to that. And but I agree, like, with your general population, you're more like your lifestyle people, stuff like that. If you're making it 2 to 3 times a week and you're doing more of, say, like a full body or like a push pull upper lower, that type of split where you are getting, it's not like centralized, like more of like your bodybuilding type splits. I agree. I think you're gonna get a lot more benefit from just that 2 to 3 days a week. And for a lot of people, lifestyle wise, like, it's a lot more manageable. It's less,
definitely realistic.
It's less overwhelming. It's less stressful.
Yeah.
Kind of bringing it all together. But then on the flip side, you have your bodybuilders and, your strength athletes, stuff like that, who are training specifically. Then, obviously you're going to get more into like, okay, Mondays, legs or quads or hams, Tuesday shoulders, Wednesdays glutes, whatever,
Mm-hmm.
where you're able to train more like your 5 to 6 days a week. But again, that's because you're also splitting it and you're giving your body and that muscle group time to recover
Right.
between. And that's going to be way more like advanced again than like your lifestyle people.
Right. Well, and don't you think bodybuilders, I know I did this kind of training and I feel like it's pretty common. Um, I feel like bodybuilders, they are pretty much in the gym to some degree almost every day.
Mm-hmm.
And so they might do more, instead of doing like a Monday or like day of the week, they might say, okay, I'm going to do 2 leg days, or I'm going to do 3 days in a row, take 2 days off,
Mm-hmm.
3 days in a row, take, regardless of if it's Sunday or if it's Friday.
Yeah.
I think bodybuilders, because they're allowing their time, their recovery time, they don't really care what day of the week it is.
Exactly.
They're sticking to their own schedule.
Yes.
Where
yes.
a lifestyle person, it's probably more dependent on their work week.
Mm-hmm.
And but I guess the take home message was just get in the gym and build some muscle. And it doesn't
or
have
at
to
home
be,
do some kind of
Right,
movement,
right.
bodybuilding, whatever, you know.
but it doesn't have to be every day. It can be as little as once a week, twice a week.
But make it beneficial. Like if you're only going in once or twice a week, go in with intent, go in
Yeah.
with purpose. Don't go in there and just go through the motions. Like
Be intent with it.
yeah, you know, make it worth it when you're in there. You don't have to absolutely kill yourself so you can't move for the next
Right.
know
Well,
2
and
or
I
3
think
days. But
I would encourage people to, as bodybuilders, we get more into like body groups or a specific like, push pull legs, But I think for the general population, if you know that you're pretty inconsistent with your gym time, I think it's more beneficial to do full body, because let's say
Yeah.
you can only get in once a week, at least you hit everything.
Yeah.
Because if you know that there's potential you're not going to get in for another week, then you can hit it again. Whereas if you are trying to split it, let's say you make it for your leg day and that's the only day you made that week, well then the next
No,
week you're
nothing
like,
else.
well shoot, do I do upper or do I do legs? And I mean, you may go 2 weeks then without touching a body group.
yeah.
So I would say that if somebody's just doing general lifestyle, stick with some like full body stuff until you're consistent, and then you can split. The other
Yeah.
thing too,
Don't get so caught up in the advanced aspects of it.
right,
when
because
you're
that's
just
what you
starting
see
out.
on like social media
Yes.
or whatnot.
Yes.
And pairing, I think it's important to stop pairing. Go lift weights to like lift heavy stuff, allow adequate recovery between sets. Stop incorporating cardio moves with. So for example,
Yes.
and this just happened at the gym the other day. A lady was doing squats, and she had weights. So she was doing this squat, and then at the top she'd do a little jump. And I'm like, first of all, you are putting yourself at risk for injury because now you are jumping with a weight.
That's a
But-
very athletic,
Yeah.
athlete-specific movement. If you're training something for that and trying to build some type of explosive something,
That's one thing.
that's one
But
thing.
like to
but a
build
general person, like,
Right. And on top of that, if you're getting your heart rate up too high, now your body is switching over into more of an aerobic activity
Yes.
versus building. And I think people, if they go into the gym and think of all your like Orange Theory classes, the
Yes.
high intensity.
yes.
The purpose of those classes was not to build muscle.
It's
They
to
may have
burn-
told you
It's
that.
to burn calories.
But it was to burn calories.
Yes.
And so if you are going to the gym to lift weights, it needs to be that. And stop trying to incorporate all these other plyo moves. Save your mobility or explosive movements for hit days, whatever, for
Yes.
its own day.
Yes.
But stop trying to incorporate it with your weights, because you're getting those diminished returns. And
Yeah.
and that's kind of that's been talked about in the fitness space. We hear these at different strength conferences too, but I mean, we see it in real life too. We see people trying to like
Do all
extra.
the things. All the
Yeah,
things.
it's like-
yeah.
And I didn't want to tell this lady because I didn't want to offend her, but I just wanted to tell her like, stop doing that and just pick up some heavier weights, because if you can jump at the end with your weights,
It's not heavy
they're
enough.
not heavy enough.
It's not heavy enough.
So she doesn't realize she'd get more bang for a buck by picking
Mm-hmm.
up heavier weights, taking the jump out of it, and really focus on the mind muscle.
Well, and I think a lot of that too is people want that toned look and they want that muscular look, and they think, oh, I have to do all of these things.
Yeah.
What they're not realizing is, a lot of times when you lose weight, that's probably why you look more muscular, is because you have less fat covering your muscles, so your muscles
Yeah.
show, so you look bigger. But at the same time, if you would just build more muscle, you would also just throughout the day burn more calories with
Right.
doing less work. And
Right.
it's
Like,
just such a mind game.
yeah, it's like an investment.
Mm-hmm.
Let your muscle work for you.
Mm-hmm.
And those, I say women because typically it's women who say they want to tone, which drives me crazy. But tone is really just building muscle so that
Yes.
it takes up the space differently than
Yes.
what fat does. That's all
Yes.
toning is. And then when you shave off some of that fat layer,
Now you can see it.
now you can see your
Mhm.
muscle better. But
Mhm.
it's not like you spot. Now, you can spot train for muscle. We do it as bodybuilders all the time to
Yes.
sculpt a certain way. You want a bigger butt, you focus on your butt. But you can't spot train for fat loss.
Right.
But what you can do is train specifically in that muscle group
Mhm.
so that as it starts to get bigger, it
Yeah.
will change the shape and take up the space differently.
Yeah. What's so kind of breaking it down on almost like more simpler terms. So say you have, this is gonna sound rude, that's not meant to. So you have really fatty legs, and you're like, I want to lose fat in my
Fatty
legs.
I don't know why that sounds funny.
But it's like, okay, so you want to lose the fat in your legs. Yes, obviously, burning more calories than you're taking in, all of that stuff for fat loss, that is going to help. But focusing on, like you said, the muscular development in your legs is going to have so much more benefit and better results than just going out and running 5 miles a day,
Right.
because you're trying to lose fat. Yes, you have to lose some of the fat, but like you said, building muscle in that area is going to be more beneficial and have better results.
Well, and it'll just look better too. I
Mhm.
mean, imagine like fluffier legs and then now add some muscle. And even if the legs are the same shape or the same size, just muscle takes up space differently than fat. So
Yes.
that same surface area, but now is muscle, it's just going to give it a different look, a different
Yes.
shape.
Yes, that's going to
and-
give you that tone that you're wanting.
And, when you're building muscle too, you have to make sure that you're fueling sufficiently. And people don't realize that. And they think they're not eating enough. And then they're wondering why they're not building muscle. So you have to find kind of that sweet spot of eating enough to where you're not eating so much to where you're in a surplus, but
Yeah.
you're eating enough to build muscle. And then your muscle can work for you in the long run.
Yes.
Because you're stronger. It's more expensive for your body to maintain muscle. Therefore, the metabolism goes up.
Yeah.
So it's so much more than just taking in less calories than what you're expending. To put it like bluntly, it's a lot more than the calorie gain.
Yes.
It's more of the strength gain, and
Yes.
a lot of the issue is that we're under muscled.
Yes.
Under
Under-muscled, under-nutritioned, underfed, and over cardioed, because, and again, speaking more towards like women, that's just what's ingrained, is go out and be a cardio bunny, eat salads as little as possible, and that's what's going to make you look like the girl in the magazines. Like, we're not understanding the girl in the magazines probably eating bare minimum
Oh yeah.
2,000 calories.
Yeah.
Again, just bare minimum, and probably lifting really heavy weights.
Yeah.
And that's why she looks like it. Not because she runs on the treadmill for 45 minutes 2 times a day and eats a salad for lunch.
Right.
Like, no.
I don't know. Maybe you wouldn't know because I'm a little bit older than you, but Shalene Johnson, like I have been a huge follower of her for forever. Like her Turbo Jam back in like 2005.
That's my mom used to
and
turbo
she was-
jam like no other.
And, she was big in the Beachbody space, and then she broke away for her own personal reasons. And I have followed every podcast. I'm on like her Patreon. I feel like I know this woman. And ironically, we were in Detroit at the same time because she's from Detroit. Anyway, what I'm getting at is when the whole Beachbody thing fell apart about a year ago, she finally came out on her Patreon and really gave some of the behind the scenes of the whole Beachbody. Like she did a dive. And she said a big reason why she didn't share this stuff before, even though she was out of her, even though she was like out of her non-disclosure contract time, she said out of the respect for some of her close friends that were still in the Beachbody or bod space, she never came out and talked about it. But so when that all happened, she like spilled the beans. And what I was getting at is, she talks about during that time, she said that she was working out for hours a day and literally eating lettuce. And, the producers, they kept coming back to her saying, well, that looks good, but we really need you to like lose a little bit more in your waist. You kind of have a blocky waist. And so that was really, kind of what we're getting at is I think the culture during that time was how much can you put your body through that you can tolerate, like how much cardio and how little can you eat, and it'll make a person miserable. And so she was just an example that I I really resonated with, and she talks. So anyway, but yeah, and then the other thing, that is really getting discussed now, and it's not like it's anything new, but Sal talked about this during the conference too, was the use of processed foods and how just getting somebody off of processed foods can make a huge difference. And if you think about it, like a lot of the society's diet is processed foods, and and the companies, they've made foods to where they have addictive properties, and the body responds differently. And so if
they've done, not to interrupt you, they've literally done studies, and that's the whole point of processed food, is they literally will make it to have the most addicting, like you said, like properties to it. And they'll literally have people like show like brain studies, and they'll find what's going to light up your brain the most, and then that's what they say
and
now.
even the colors, putting the dyes. One of the guys gave the example of like, let's say you put sunglasses on, or like the blue light, if your whole plate looked the same, your brain would process how it tastes differently.
Yeah.
Because it's just the colors. And so I would say one thing too that people could do if they're just trying to make like small changes is just stop eating processed food. Like, don't try to add anything. Eat what you want, but just remove the processed food. And I think a person would be surprised, even myself, if I try to go through my day of like, gosh, what is processed, in the bodybuilding days, and like where you're at, we eat a whole lot of whole foods.
It's a lot of, yes.
And it's hard for us to even maintain salt intake, because when you're actually eating whole foods, you're not getting all that added sodium. So we have to add salt. But
because I had specifically the Himalayan pink salt.
Yeah, that's what I used.
Yep,
too.
That's the best. And especially like, kind of like, side quest, with summer and how hot and humid it is right now, people think like just drinking water, stuff like that, or like your Gatorades, your kind of your sugary drinks. If you're not having salt and electrolytes with your hydration, you're just on a hamster on a wheel. Like it's not doing anything.
Yeah, like sodium needs change.
Yeah, so make sure that's a big thing. Especially if you got kids in sports and stuff like that. Make sure you are having some type of like salt and electrolyte with their hydration, with their water. I know a lot of people do like Gatorades. It's super, super sugary. And that's one of the reasons, like, again, side quest to side quest. The original Gatorade used to be really, really salty, because that's what it was designed for, was to rehydrate that team, that sports team. And so it was a really salty one. They switched over to having it like, was like commercialized. They made it way more sugary and less salty, because that's what the general consumer wanted. They didn't want like the salty drink. So yes, Gatorade initially was intended to be awesome. It's not so awesome anymore.
No, like I feel like Gatorade, whatever happened, I don't know. I just feel like there's other options now.
Yeah. So with that, I know a lot of people will like the liquid IVs or stuff like that. One that we've switched over and started using, especially like with motocross and stuff like that. Like that is I can wring my jersey out after one moto. Like it's a very demanding. And you're on a track with no shade. It's hot. It's a long whole day thing. One of the things that we switched over for us and the girls is called we could call it Element, but it's LMNT.
Yeah, we use that too.
By far, like the best like drink add-in mixed in that I've ever used. I've ever found. Like our one class we had, moto class. I was like gonna pass out. I was like that hot and dehydrated. I did 2 sticks in 1 water bottle. It was like salt of the earth.
Yeah.
But it was like it instant.
Yeah.
I was so much better.
We switch between that one. So Element Tea, that's a big one we use. And then we also use the Redmond Salt brand.
Okay.
And so the Redmond Salt, that is out of Salt Lake City. It's like supposed to be like the salt, like in their mountains.
Oh, okay.
And so, we've used their table salt, or like just, salt, for a long time. But then when they also came out, and they have like a pre-workout, so we utilize theirs, especially for like during workouts. We'll do that with like aminos, and then but we have the LMNT packets too. We use the packets a lot for travel.
Yes.
Especially if we know we're going to partake in adult activities.
Yeah.
We always have those. But yeah, really, really good. Yeah, I think people forget about the electrolytes. Magnesium, super important. You could take that at night. Calcium's even a big one. Like if you are having muscle cramps, I think people are quick to be like, oh, your potassium's low, eat a banana. It's so much more than that.
Yes.
And calcium actually plays a big role in smooth muscle relaxation. And so if you're low in calcium too, you can have, that increased excitability within the muscle. So,
I've actually feel like when I've done the liquid IVs, I feel like I have more cramps. I've noticed more cramping, than I do with the element or the element tea, whatever you want to call it. And the liquid IV I think is a lot more sugary too, which I agree. And I don't like that aspect of it.
I'm not a huge fan of the liquid IV in general. I think if you don't have, so the other companies, you guys that we're talking about, I mean, you have to get it online.
Yes.
So I think the liquid IV is a good alternative. Let's say you're at grocery store or
need something quick right away. I add salt to mine too when I do it, because I don't think it has as much salt as the element does, which is what you need for your hydration. So.
Right. And I've tried the sugar-free liquid IVs too.
It's just not
as good.
No.
And I don't think it's as natural for you as what LMNT or the Redmond brand is. So yeah, interesting stuff. So we were at the World Peptide conference this past week, and that was in Vegas. And that is really our jam, because we have been dabbling with peptides for, I remember the first time I did peptides was kind of when they were still maybe, I don't want to say black market, but just not really known and kind of a stigma around them. But that was probably back in 2021. So that was super interesting. The conference, they just focused a lot, not so much on like different types, so much of peptides. And I feel like we were already pretty educated in a majority of, kind of the common ones.
We'll have to do like a peptide specific episode, because there are so many different ones, and there's so many different uses for them. That as we're kind of coming up towards the end of this episode, just like you said, to kind of do a brief overview of the conference stuff that you guys went to. But yeah, I definitely think it'd be super, super beneficial.
And just kind of talking, because some people are even like, well, what are peptides? And, what are they used for? And so
they're not get into steroids.
They're not steroids.
They're not illegal.
Peptides, they're actually shorter chains of amino acids. And amino acids are the building blocks of protein. And so they're just more specialized amino acids. And so, so it's already what your body has. It's just, think of a peptide as like the key that unlocks specific functions. And if you can manipulate that with the use of additional exogenous peptides, you can. But really, to just kind of summarize the conference, really the take-home message was, you can take all the peptides you want, but if you're not sticking to the basis of, strength training, your nutrition, your hydration, stress control, stress management, it doesn't matter what peptides you take, you're going to be spending a lot of money for nothing.
For minimal.
And so peptides really need to be used as a way to optimize what you're already doing. And
it's like it's like your classic bodybuilder. You can take all the steroids you want, but if you're not actually giving a stimulus for them, you're just wasting your money.
And so that's kind of really what. So I would say the conference focused more on, just back to basics: the strength training, the protein, what peptides can do.
It's like the cherry on top.
Yeah, that exactly. It is the sprinkles and the toppings that you're doing after you already have your base foundation. But it was really great. Like I said, I got to meet Mind Pump. That was super awesome. I always enjoy like the vendors at these events, so it's kind of fun to like walk around and see the different vendors and what's out there. And of course, everyone wants to give you samples. And
Well, it's a nice way to like kind of see what's like coming down the line, future wise.
Yeah,
too, and get a feel for that and where the direction, the research, and the science and stuff is going.
Yeah, and mark my words, peptides, like even a year from now, it's going to become more mainstream. Just like
it already is.
like a couple years ago. And keep in mind, semaglutide, those weight loss drugs, those are peptides. Insulin is a peptide. And so, even 2 years ago, when these weight loss peptides came out, it was kind of like, it was really hard to get them. They were super expensive. It was very limited how you could get them. It was kind of a stigma to it. Not many people were using it. And then now it's just blown up. And that's what I foresee, just peptides to be used. But, I use a variety of different peptides for different reasons, and they're typically used as a cycle. So it's not typically that you take one peptide forever. It's usually you take it during a period of time, depending on what your goal is or what your body's need is. So, like, for example, maybe you have a surgery and you need some added help with tissue recovery and healing. So you might choose to take something like BP 157 to help as an additional tool for your body. But like, if I was, if you're doing all the other bad, like, okay, let me back up. Let's say you're not doing all the other good things for healing, and we don't have to get into that because we all know what good healing mechanisms are. If you're not doing those things, just taking BP 157 isn't going to do much for you.
Right.
It's when you're doing everything together, just like red light therapy.
Yeah.
If you leave a really trashy lifestyle, you could do all the red light therapy you want. It's not going to help you much because your diet still sucks and you're still sedentary and so all of these like functional
it's not
health,
a magic fix-all pill.
Yeah.
It's a, like you said, cherry on top helper.
Right. And that's a lot of what functional health is. So all of these like cold plunges and red light therapies and cryotherapies, and those are all functional tools that help to optimize what you're already doing.
Yes, which also kind of on that topic real quick too, all of those things, especially like the cold plunge and all that stuff, you have to remember those are also stressors. So if you already are all super stressed out and already in a high stress state, it's a nice recovery tool, but it also got to remember that's also going to stress your body, and so you might again just be spinning your wheels with it. There's a time and a place for all of these things.
Oh, and quick thing, so there was a study that came out. So we use, you've heard of like cold plunges, ice baths. We use those for recovery, for decreased inflammation.
It's really good for like mental health as well.
Right, but like there was a study that I came across that if you're trying to build muscle, you should actually avoid any type of like cold plunge after working out because you're stopping that. So when you're building muscle, it's because your body sends that inflammatory response to recover, to break down, to build back stronger. And so if you blunt that with a cold plunge or ice therapy right after working out, you're stopping that signal of recovery to build. So not saying that you shouldn't do it. It's just if you're going to do that, you should try to do it in between sessions and not right after a strength training session. And this is like different than an athlete who is trying to mend an injury. Like this is a whole different idea. This is saying that like don't go and do a really heavy workout where you really just destroyed yourself and then go sit in a cold plunge. Ideally you think like, oh, I'm doing myself a favor because like I'm gonna recover faster, but actually it can be the opposite because you're blunting that inflammatory response, which is really what you need to start the recovery process in the first place. So I thought that was interesting.
Yeah.
So food for thought. I don't do that anyway.
Like you said,
right after, but
time and place.
Yeah, it's
for
all
all
timing.
for all of these things, and knowing when to utilize them, when to not utilize
And
them,
why? Like,
and
what's your rationale?
yes, and you don't, guys, you don't have to do
All the stuff.
all of the things all of the time. You know, again, just knowing there's a time and a place, and when to utilize it, how to utilize it, is all very. It's important,
Individualized,
and
yeah.
individualized, and
Yeah.
it makes a difference.
And I think you have to figure out too, what are you going to be compliant to? I know 100% I would not be compliant to a cold plunge. I don't care how many benefits there are because I hate being cold. And I know that I could challenge myself and be disciplined and get over that all the things that you see on social media where they're like, yeah, just do it. I'm not going to enjoy it. And
But
so
also,
in order for me to
no.
be compliant, I have to somewhat,
Yeah.
I do a red light cap.
Yeah.
I have a red light cap. I am like
On
every
it.
single day. When I have my coffee, I keep it by like my little chair area. And every morning, like I have my glowing red hat. And,
I just want someone to drive by your window so bad during that time.
my head is glowing.
It's like, what is happening?
What is she
The
doing?
aliens are scared.
And I wish I could say, because maybe some of the listeners are going to be like, oh, does it work? I don't know. It's not hurting. And it was kind of one of those things, again, a tool that once you fix other things like your eating, your hydration, your nutrients, your supplements.
And it's not going to be an instant thing.
Right. And so some of those treatments like the red light, I don't know if it really made a difference, but it certainly could have hurt.
Yeah.
But if I'm not eating what I'm supposed to be eating and eating the protein, it doesn't matter how long I wear that cap. I'm not going to magically grow hair.
Right. Right.
So
Exactly. But
well, yeah, this was fun to catch up.
Yeah.
We're
What
probably
I
getting
want
about time, right?
yes, because I need to go get the hair lasered off my face.
Lasered off his face. Okay, so really quick, is it helping? Okay, tell me, because we started like I think you, Ash,
I've got
and
2 sessions ahead of you.
Okay, and then Ash and I started at the same time. Nelson and I.
Which, and I know we keep talking about doing this episode. One of these days, I'm gonna stop saying when, but the next time all 3 of us get together,
Let's talk about like beauty stuff.
yes, we will be doing our Titty Talk Tuesday. We're gonna be talking about a bunch of that stuff as far as like
girl stuff.
implants and like laser waxing, just
Hair,
girl. I
girl
call
stuff.
it aftermarket stuff.
Yeah.
All the aftermarket stuff. Someday. I don't know when at this point, but we will. Anyway, yes, I feel like it is. I know it comes, it's like, feels like up and down. So
Okay,
I'll
that
notice.
makes me feel better.
But you also got to remember, like, your hair grows in different phases, different rates, different times, stuff like that. Because I know there's been times I've been gone in for like a wax and it's like been, different or like more than other times. And she said that's just how your hair is.
Right.
So it's just it's one of those things, staying consistent with it. I do feel like what does come back is a lot thinner. I know it's working. I know it's getting there. It comes in a lot thinner and it's not as dark. And I notice like my problem areas, I just definitely just spit. I am so sorry. I've noticed like, yes, my problem areas are still more prevalent there, but it's getting better.
Okay.
It's getting better. And I noticed like when I first started, because you have to do like the dermaplane, the dermaplane. There you go.
Yeah.
I was having to do that when I first started, like once a week in between sessions to stay up with it. I feel like now I can easily get away with like once every 2 weeks before I notice just my problem areas.
Okay.
That I started to notice are still a problem.
Yeah, I would agree. And you and I are both, because I do my legs also. And I was a little hesitant in my legs because I've heard different ones saying that lighter hair people, because the laser has to find the dark hair pigment to not attach to, but like zap.
Yeah.
And so if you have lighter hair follicles, it doesn't notice that hair follicle as much. But there was a gal, a close friend of mine, that she's very light complected and she had great results with it. So I've been doing my hair and my legs same time as you and Nelson, and I would agree. Like I think sometimes I get a little discouraged where I'm like, what the heck, there's like still, but if I remind myself how thick it used to be and how often I had to shave, like my lower legs, I could probably go 2 weeks without shaving and they wouldn't be bad. But my upper legs, because that's where more of the lighter hair is, it's like I don't know if it's made a huge difference. Some people don't even shave their upper legs to begin with because they don't get like hair growth. Not me.
I'm not that person.
Yeah, same.
No. And I guess I do. I have darker hair. Like my family just is a darker haired family, which is weird. I have two blonde babies. But
Yeah.
um yeah, I don't know, like you said, and this will be my 10th or 11th session now, and they said it can take anywhere from like 12 to 16 sessions,
Yeah.
especially if you have, it's more like prevalent, and hormones play a big role in that
Yeah.
and stuff like that too, so
Yeah, that sounds about right because I started in October. And actually, like, I have my appointment. We go to the same lady, by the way, and I go tomorrow. I was supposed to go last week, but I had to reschedule.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
but yeah. Okay, so if someone asks you, and we can go over this in another episode, like, do you feel like it's been worth it overall?
I would say yes, especially when I know in the long run what it's going to save me on the waxing, and like I
Yes,
said,
yeah.
I don't feel like I have as much, like when I would go to get like wax like every like 6 weeks, I would notice towards like into like the fourth, fifth, and like 6th week that it was like I was like very self-conscious because I knew that I had a decent amount of like regrowth happening. I feel like I don't have that as much with the laser.
Yeah, I would agree.
So for me, like that, I mean, that alone is worth it. Like I said too, I know once it is gone, in the long run, what I'm going to save on waxing will be nice. Which, like, the lady I go to for waxing she's not crazy expensive anyway.
No,
but
no, it's just that recurring cost that you
And
just know that.
the laser, yeah, it's painful, but I still think it's better than waxing.
So sometimes when I go, like, it's really painful, and then the next time I go, and it's not painful at all. And then I'm like, what is the deal? But again, it's how your hair
It's
is
your
growing.
hair, yes,
And
yes.
how much is there. And then you really shouldn't be plucking in between, which sometimes, so
It's
I get,
hard.
and it's hard because I get like that little stubby, like on my chin,
Yeah.
and I'm like, I just want to pluck it. So what I'll do is I'll just go grab the little dermaplane razor, and before I'm even tempted to pluck it, I'll just like shave it off quick, and I'm like, okay. Because I'm the type of person that I have like tweezers in the car. If you don't have tweezers in the car, you are missing out because your lighting is the best in the car, and
Oh,
you
that
will
natural
find
light? Yes.
all of the hairs.
Yes.
So
Yes.
yeah. So with that, recommendation or tip of the day is keep tweezers in your car
Keep tweezers in your car.
and consider maybe some laser.
Yeah.
And
Oh, and I wanted to add real quick too. When we talked about earlier, like the rest days and like the no days off, I don't want to feel like we're throwing any shade at all. Because Nelson and her husband are definitely
for sure.
They are on. That's how they operate. They don't take days
like
off.
a whole different level, and they know their bodies.
Yes.
And they know
That is a very, very, very advanced level, and they have their splits dialed in, and that's what works for them. But again, they are also very, very advanced bodybuilders that have been doing this for a very long time.
Well, and we also said
And can operate
bodybuilders are
at
in a
that.
different category because
Yes.
they are actually, even though
Yes.
they may be at the gym every day, they are recovering because they're not working on the same body split every day. So
Yes.
that's a big difference of the whole no days off gang. So, but no, my was more like on the social media where you see some
Yes.
of that, where like you're
Yes.
being lazy if you're taking a day off, and I
Yes.
think sometimes people just don't understand, or the cardio bunnies who they're talking about all the classes they're going to,
Yes.
plus they run 10 miles a day, plus they go to the
Yes.
gym. Those are the people that we're talking to of
Yes.
you need recovery,
Not your advanced athlete specific type people.
that are knowledgeable about their body.
Yes.
And they know how to listen to their body.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
100%
different.
agree.
But yeah, I just wanted to clarify too, especially since like Nelson's not here to kind of like speak to that side of things. I didn't
think of that. But we did, like I said, we did touch on that with like the bodybuilding.
Yes.
The bodybuilding community is different than
Yes.
The overworked,
Yes.
under eating, stressed out.
And if
mom.
you have to ask yourself if you are advanced or not,
Then you're probably not.
you're probably not. I don't want to be rude,
Like,
but you're not.
Like if you even have to question it, you're not.
Yes.
It the bodybuilding space, it is a whole different level, and it's not to like be egocentric or brag or anything, but I mean they're the top 1% for a reason, and it's because most people don't have that desire or the ambition to do what bodybuilders do, and it doesn't make it right or wrong. It's just we have to.
It's just different.
It's just different, and we have to just appreciate that.
Yes. So, with that, we will, like you said, at some point dive more into the peptides because I think that'll be really beneficial for everyone.
Yeah, for sure. And then
We'll definitely
beauty
get
hacks,
a
because
beauty
I
hacks.
need all the help I can get.
Yes, all of the things.
I'm like dumb
That,
when it
yeah,
comes to that.
that'll be good. Like I said, we'll talk kind of like the implants, and like I said, like just all the cool aftermarket.
Nelson will be, hello, Nelson. She'll be all excited.
Yes.
About the booby talk.
Yes, and oh my God, we keep talking about it, and our schedules are just absolutely atrocious.
We will though. And
so at some point in time.
Yeah.
Because that'll be a good one. And we'll even talk to us like some of the stuff like guys and all that stuff too. So, or if guys are curious about what it's like to have fake titties.
Yeah, or like, do guys shave stuff? I don't know.
Manscape?
I think.
Guys out there, let us know.
Yeah,
do you
send us a DM like.
Who's manscaping? Is that still a thing
Who's
anymore?
ma-
Who's manscaping?
Who's manscaping?
Okay. Anyway, yes, that is it. Thank you guys for tuning in for another good one. Hopefully this one was a little educational.
Yeah, I think so.
But yeah, anyway, tune in, subscribe, follow along.
Ask questions.
DMs.
Ask questions, because then we know kind of a lead of what to talk about. So.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, thanks, bye.
Bye.